Hi there, my name's Tanner, and I've been working on a video series for the past year, and frankly, it's probably going to take more than a year for me to complete everything, but I am working on this grief series referencing family members that I have lost in my lifetime. If you haven't seen it already, I've already completed 2 videos, one pertaining to my mom and an older one pertaining to my daughter that I'm probably going to actually reshoot. I would like to shoot it with my wife since, of course, she's very much involved just like I am. But that said, I want to call this the second part of that official part of the series, and this one is pertaining to my grandpa, since he was the next one I lost after my mom, and it was my mom's dad, Grandpa Woodward. He was born in Hatch, New Mexico in January of 1934. And he was basically born and raised in that area his entire life. Later on in life, he did, of course, move around and live in other places, but we can get to that here in just a little bit. I don't know the finite details of Grandpa's younger years. I learned a lot after he passed away, and we were at the funeral with my uncle giving the eulogy and kind of that historical summary about him, and learning a bunch of new things I just never knew about him before, and kind of kickstarting the idea that I felt like I wanted to know more about my family that I hadn't discovered or discussed or thought about before. And so I know I need to be better about that moving forward. But what I will say is kind of where it all started to change was whenever Grandpa had his stroke. I was still quite young. It was in the mid-90s. I can't remember my exact age by any means, but I was, still in the single digits, I believe, because I think it was like mid to late 90s, and I didn't turn 2 digits until the end of the 90s, and so I'm pretty certain it's before that. And I just remember not fully understanding or knowing what's actually going on because, well, what's a stroke? What do you mean Grandpa's not feeling well? He's indestructible. He's your grandpa. He works at a lumber yard and works with wood all the time and a bunch of little things like that. But I can honestly say, unfortunately, I didn't fully grasp what that actually meant until his later years in life. And I, of course, regret that. But there's not a whole lot I can do. And I was young and innocent and just didn't know any better at that time. But when he had the stroke and seeing him for the first time in the hospital, because, of course, we went to visit him right away, just to see the size of a man that he was, to just kind of be bedridden and unable to move the left side of his body. So his stroke affected the left side of his body, where it's completely paralyzed from his neck down. And so he had to learn how to walk again. And honestly, I don't know if he ever really got the hang of it, unfortunately. I think it was just a challenge for him to be such an active guy, because he used to run marathons in the New Mexican desert very regularly with my dad especially, and that was just their thing. He owned planes, and hearing stories that whether him by himself or with my dad or with family members, would fly from the airport in Las Cruces, New Mexico, out to the desert somewhere, land in a gully basically, or some kind of leftover dirt path of some type, and then go for a marathon run. And yes, I'm talking a literal 26-mile marathon run, get back to the plane, and then fly home for dinner or whatever time of day it may have actually been that he had been doing the run. And it was always intriguing to hear how he used to do that. And so when he had a stroke and wasn't able to do that anymore, it took me some time to grasp exactly what that meant. And again, the shell of the guy that he used to be, because he was unable to do anything else. Again, being pretty well bedridden, but was still strong enough to continue trying to live life as best as he could. And unfortunately, the common phrase that we heard from family was, all right, your grandpa's not feeling very well. We'll see how he does. Maybe he'll pull through it or whatever. And even the doctors in the hospitals and all the different hospitals that he visited, and the physical therapy doctors and everybody who did a wonderful job taking care of him, used to say that, oh, he has X number of months to live, or X number of years to live, or whatever the case was. Well, in the end, he lasted for over 20 years after having that stroke. And in fact, the more I think about it, I think that's actually accurate. I think he passed the 20-year mark before he passed away. So that would have been 1995 or 1996 that he had the stroke. One of the hardest parts that I experienced towards the end of his life was after losing my mom, which was his daughter, his second child, but his first daughter, because I have an older uncle and a younger aunt compared to my mom, and seeing him realize that she was gone after coming to the funeral home to see her, because they didn't live in town. They had to come visit from a different town. And I've seen him cry before. I've seen him struggle before, but this time was different because you never expect to see your kid pass before yourself. And that was very hard to watch, but I knew it was necessary because that's my grandpa, and that was my mom. And then 2 years later, on June 21st, 2016, I got the call from my aunt that he had passed away. There were no specific complications aside from, well, the stroke. To my knowledge, he was just slowing down a lot. And I vaguely feel like I remember my aunt mentioning that after mom passed away, that was kind of the start of that downhill path. And I just never forget hearing that and being sad and bummed out because, of course, after 20 years, he finally passed away. Hearing that regularly over that 20-year stretch, that it could be any day, it could be any month, it could be any year. And so he was such a strong man to last that long with those kinds of disabilities, with the paralyzation. It was impressive to watch him go through it all and be as strong as he actually was. And I do remember getting the phone call and then just kind of laying down in bed and just processing that it was actually official this time, that he was actually gone, that it wasn't, it'll be soon. No, he was gone. He had passed away. And I just remember it being a long process because it'd been 20 years that I heard this. So to finally come to grips with it took some time to process. I think it took me about a week to really let it sink in. And that's about how long it took to get things taken care of and make our way to Texas from Colorado here. I remember spending time with him at the lumber yard that he owned and learning how to do woodwork, carpentry. He loved pallets. Even after his stroke, he would always ask us to grab pallets for him, or make my grandma pull over on the side of the road. Hey, there's pallets there. Let's grab those. And then he'd ask for my help to tear them apart or cut them or something, because of course he had limited mobility to be able to do so himself. But it was a great time to be able to do that with him. Grandpa, I haven't really thought about you a lot lately. It's nothing personal. I've just been a little busy with my job, with my career, and you have another great grandson on the way, who, as of recording this, is going to be born any day now. I wish that you would be here for him so you could show him how to do woodwork. After all, it was the namesake, Woodward. All the tricks that you taught me over my life, the different kinds of wood, the way that you work with it, different types of nails and how to make it all happen. Grandpa, you taught me a lot. You're also the first one to really teach me true strength from pain. to make it 20 years beyond what is considered a catastrophic stroke, and to still live life to the degree that you did is awe-inspiring. So thank you for those lessons, Grandpa. I will never forget our times together doing that. The times that the cabin in New Mexico, going on plane rides with you. In fact, I want to say that is some of the first memories I had in a plane was riding in your plane while you flew. And being too small and unable to see out the windows. Because then you couldn't fly anymore. I never got to experience that ever again. Now that I'm holding a bigger, and you can see out windows just fine. Thank you, Grandpa, for everything. I miss you. I love you. We'll see you again soon.